And family, your brother, your friend, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan here with RK's Guyana Free Media. Peace and blessings to my country and to my fellow citizens of Guyana longing for peace and democracy to reign in the land. I have an article here written in the KAIETEUR News of Wednesday, July 1st, 2020 by Hamilton Green, my brother Bilal Green, Hamilton Bilal Green, friends and family, brothers and sisters in Guyana. Gonsalves and Mottley have meddled in our internal affairs. First of all, before I go on, I'm a bit of an old head. As a young man growing up, when these guys were big and powerful and controlling the state and the nation and fraud and thievery of a nation, destroying the then opposition, the People's Progressive Party, with the majority of votes in the land, stealing elections. Hamilton Green, he was a thief of elections. In time come, he became my friend, even when he was Prime Minister. As I got bigger and into business and we met and so on, we learned to socialize, and then more so, after they lost power, we became more and more friends. But we must remember the People's National Congress, under the hands of Forbes Warren, put aside the agricultural thrust, which I love, and the self-sufficiency for food, which I believe and which I support, ladies and gentlemen. Put that aside. The terror that was unleashed, the barbarism, the destruction of business, the seizing of people's assets, the theft of people's vehicles, using the police, banning everything, and then destroying life even more by seizing the people's vehicles if they had any smuggling thing, even though it might not have been smuggled because they didn't have a receipt. People's car and lives were jeopardized. People had to send their wives overseas to bring food and to sell in Guyana. And ladies started to go overseas, and then immorality broke. Mr. Hamilton Green, where this is concerned, you should be the last person to speak, sir. You're my friend, but you should be the last person to speak. Because this is what you were doing in those days. And even in the first elections, how can you, Hamilton Green, my friend Bilal Green, how can you and my other friend, whom I truly respected, who changed around the next election, Desmond Hoyt, or during his reign, how could you and him run as Prime Minister, you and him as President, and expect to win the elections in this country? And when Vincent Tika was to be made the Prime Ministerial candidate, he was viciously murdered. I'm not going to say who did it, but I know many of you know who did it. And how can you sleep knowing that you murdered a wonderful, beautiful man's life, and you prevented Guyana from reaching the great heights of civilization and recognition around the world? Who shot and arranged the shooting of Joshua Ramsamy? And then Ohidi Kawama, Walter Rodney, and many others. And whenever the international community in the late 60s, the 70s, and the 80s would come in and condemn, we will tell them, the then de facto leaders, that they need to butt out of Guyana's internal affairs. So, do you give internal affairs the excuse to tyrannize your people, to steal a nation, to destroy democracy, my friend Mr. Hamilton Green, my brother? Do you do that? I think you should be the last person to make these comments, sir. I know you told me one time, well, Brother Bilal Green, that you made it quite clear that your religion was politics. You know that, right? Your religion was politics. That's your first religion. And this, sir, is politics. I recall when the government took power, the PPC government took power, when you admitted that there were mistakes and actually offered an apology you won our hearts. You actually offered an apology, and you said that the previous government need to correct themselves in the opposition and apologize to the nation. But here you go again, back. What it said, a dog accustomed to suck egg can't stop. And I go to the article. Dear editor, this is by Hamilton Green. An almost unbelievable feature of human experience is the failure of intelligent leaders to understand their own history. This lack of knowledge and inability to make appropriate connections with the present has been a serious weakness. And people say, why are you reading Hamilton Green and views from the government? Well, that is what I'm here for. My job is to read and to give some viewpoints. My job is not to be biased against anybody, but to speak the truth. And what I spoke just now on this article and about the PNC in the early days and about Hamilton Green and Forbes Burnham and others are the truth. They happened. And 2015, Hamilton Green knew. I spoke to him. And when he called the Minister of the Presidency, he got quiet. Why are they trying to destroy me and my business from my office? And a big one was supposed to visit him at his home. And after that, he never spoke to me again on the topic. So he knew. He found out. I called him as a friend. He found out there was a clandestine terroristic move to destroy the life of me, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, my beloved, dear friends and families. But I didn't die. I didn't die. For the Creator is the watcher and the giver of life. And I go back to the article now. Hamilton Green. This has allowed many to traverse a path of sheer folly, often contrary to their own self-interest and the welfare of the people that they have been elected to serve. In all of this, we find individuals tend to speak on behalf of groups who have neither been consulted nor given those who now speak the right to speak on their behalf. For me, it is both sad and worrisome to hear a handful of past and current CARICOM leaders express their views on the Guyana 2020 general and regional elections. First, when we occupy positions of authority and leadership, before making a pronouncement should be seized of all the relevant facts before making public statements, as we have noted from the likes of Dr. Ralph Gonsalves of St. Vincent, Bruce Golding of Jamaica, purportedly speaking for the OAS, and now of all people, Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. All the time, commentary, Mr. Hamilton Green, you were not saying anything against them. But as soon as they exposed the shenanigans and the conspiracies, suddenly they become bad. But if they were to accommodate the attempted theft of a nation, it would have been fine. Right, sir? It would have been fine. Right? Brother Bilal Hamilton Green? Right? In a few days' time, we celebrate the 55th anniversary of a glorious moment in CARICOM history. 3 CARICOM giants and super patriots met at Dickinson Bay in Antigua in the first week of July 1965 and signed the KAIETEUR Agreement, the forerunner of CARICOM. I refer to Errol Barrow, Vere Cornwall Beard, and Lyndon Forbes Thompson Burnham, premiers of Barbados, Antigua, and British Guyana, respectively. These 3 giants intended to set the stage to avoid any form of fragmentation and discord. What we noted recently in statements and references to our 2020 elections must have caused these visionaries to turn in their graves. I disagree with you, Bilal Green. I disagree with you. No. They must be smiling and joyful that our people are defending what is right, for even the theft that was being perpetuated in 2020 by this government, by the AFC APNU, would have made Burnham pain because him was more elegant and decent. This was theft attempt, not only by skullduggery and mass thievery, but by stupidity and gross errant, ridiculous behavior. All of them, including Forbes Burnham, I believe, would be smiling in their grave that the people are fighting a mere Mottley. They're standing up, along with Bruce Golding and others, Ralph Gonsalves and others, for what is right and the rule of law. And back to the article, they and subsequent Caribbean leaders understood that the decent thing to do was to listen and learn from the counterparts and not, as was observed, to lecture to a colleague. With regard to Golding, Mottley and Gonsalves, they must follow rules of engagement. Rules of engagement that would not tolerate skullduggery and thievery. Rules of engagement that would show the life and the importance for people, that would show Guyana as a dignified nation, not want to go down in shame and degradation and disgrace. I disagree with you, Hamilton Green, again. If they deem it necessary to pontificate and therefore meddle in internal affairs of a fellow CARICOM state, they should do so only after aware of all, and I think stress all of the relevant factors. Those people know more than you believe, sir. But one important thing, Mr. Hamilton Green, they are tainted. They were not involved in any kind of clandestine activity to hurt or beat strikers, or to have anybody injured or hurt, or to steal a nation, as was done in the past during your legacy, sir, and others as well. Further, the hallmark of civility within the Committee of Nations and the enhancement of the core concept of decency and fair play is to seek information from all sides and examine all the issues carefully before one rushes to judgment. Failing to do so is either a sign of prejudice or immaturity. What gave you the compunction, Mr. Hamilton Green, to make such pronouncements on these elegant people simply because they're standing up for what is right and the rule of law of our country, and to ensure that Guyana does not go down in a state of degradation and disgrace as we did for most of 28 years, except the 7 years of Desmond Hoyt. So who are you, sir, to say these things? You don't have the right. You don't have the authority nor the history to say these words. For simply, you have to look at what you and what Lyndon Gonsalves Burnham did to this country and to the peoples of this country for nearly 28 years. Back to the article. It is unbelievable that the architects of CARICOM, followed by the likes of Dr. Eric Williams and Norman Manley et al., before saying unkind things about the other, would not have utilized dialogue before making a public pronouncement, and would have resisted this banal public attack on the David Granger administration. And once again, I disagree. Eric Williams and Norman Manley were different creatures of justice and have different reputation compared to you and Lyndon Gonsalves Burnham, sir, brother Bilal Hamilton Green. They say a leopard never changes his spots. That is true. We can see what's going on with the APNO and the AFC. And the APNO AFC, being the leopard of the past, cannot change its past. It's spots, brother Bilal Hamilton Green. Are these leaders aware that left to the PPPC hierarchy, there would have been no CARICOM, and if there was, it would have minus Guyana? It was the PPP leadership in Guyana that did everything to scuttle a Caribbean Union. You're going back to history. You're trying to get emotionality, their purpose and reasons for things. So you think that because CARICOM came into existence through CARIFTA, these people as judges should cloud their eyes with your wool and cloud their eyes with more and more and gross stupidity. But they're judges. They're people of elegance. And whatever you're writing here to try to confuse them will only make them smile. For me, Mottley already said the truth hurts. On a related matter, we see inappropriate statements by certain diplomats and local organizations. I believe that the expressed views are personal and not necessarily of their respective governments. My God, you're now speaking for the government. Bilal Green, they're speaking, their representative, their diplomats, they're speaking on behalf of their government. You're saying they're speaking personally? You believe. Well, you believe wrong, sir. You believe wrong. They have already pronounced. The government has not objected or recalled or terminated any one of them. Back to Hamilton Green's article. In this regard, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I was glad to read the statement made by President David Granger with regards to relations with the United States of America, after it was already abused and cussed down by the chief of Chronicle, who is in acting mode as Prime Minister, and who likes the sound of the siren tumbling in his skull. Moses Nagamutu insulted America, as he always does. He's a hater of America. Right, I agree with you here. President Granger did the right thing to try and correct it, even though he already molested them and insulted them by refusing the Carter Center to watch over our democracy. I believe, back to the article, I believe similar sentiments can be expressed with regard to Canada, the EU, India, China, Russia, Central America, including Cuba, countries of Latin America, South America, and Africa. From the time of independence, Guyana has always sought to maintain cordial and fruitful relations with all countries. That is true. Forbes Burnham was good in that, and he had a masterful Minister of Foreign Affairs, Rashley Jackson. We haven't seen another one like that in this country. And Mr. Insinani was the other, who was worked under Rashley Jackson. That is true. They tried to maintain good relationship so that but there's a reason, so that they would not want to attack and condemn the Burnham government for the atrocities, but still they got condemned for their atrocities. In this regard, the time has come to remind leaders of organizations such as the FITOG, the Chamber of Commerce, the Private Sector Commission, sections of the media, certain diplomats and others, that it is bias and intolerance that led to the tragedy of slavery. There you go again. These are his forte. This technique he's trying to put now, that you gentlemen of the world and ladies, he's trying now to confuse your heart. You must feel guilty and therefore give them power. By fiat, by magic, even if they're involved in thievery, regardless of what the developed world does, it will never be enough. It will never be enough. All the contributions and donations in nation building and helping in various projects, the seawalls, the roads, the highways, and the hospitals, the EU and the UK and Canada and the United States will never be thanked by persons like Hamilton Green. So the tragedy of slavery, the 2 world wars, and the many proxy conflicts and coups, and the killings of George Floyd and in the US have tarnished the existence of what we deem to be a civilized society. These are the reality of civilizations, the clash of civilizations. Go backwards, the Romans, the Persians, the great Indian armed forces in various states, in Africa, in Europe, in South America. There have always been those in power trying to perpetuate themselves in power. Bilal, brother, my friend, Hamilton Green. I call upon these representatives of international and regional and local organizations to avail themselves of all the factors related to the 2020 elections, for example, whether it is in North America, Europe, or anywhere else. Elections are not the business of saints or sisters of mercy. In Guyana, with oil and other opportunities, the stakes for 2020 elections were the highest in our country. And the recount showed that some friends, as we say in Guyana, try a thing. When we call that and we are caught with our pants down, we accept it and move on. If we begin a journey where conditions allow for manipulation, The road then is rocky and rough, but manipulation is what we've had in this election. Conspiracy of the highest order. Manipulation and theft of resources put in the names of friends and families in this country. And supporters and the party and others will draw down 200,000 acres of land in the interior to 200 acres of virgin territory, 180 acres of land in prime Ogle area. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, brothers and sisters, beware with the words that I give you here today. Mr. Hamilton Green is the one who's pulling the eyes over people. And he was talking about manipulation. We have already had the manipulation from you know who. Hi G, Hamilton Green, G, Sir G. The road then is rocky and rough. These persons above should ask why the PPP was anxious to contest the elections using a bloated list of electors. No bloated list, it was already there. You had time to object, you know that. The 49 days or whatever was given. There was no objection, it was too late. You want to object because you want to extend the time of the elections. And then people who were overseas from both parties returned to vote. I saw them, I met them in the plains, 2015 and this election. So they had the time to object. Where were you, Bhai G, Brother G, Hamilton Green G? Where were you, sir, at that time? Back to the article. If those who now speak could answer that question, we can have a healthy conversation. Can never have a healthy conversation with certain people, sir. Can never have a healthy conversation. You were on the side of righteousness when you started the Good and Green Party. But then you regressed and you lost your way, my brother, Hamilton Green. And don't, because of this article and my commentary, don't refuse to say hello to me. I will always say hello to you as an elder and a friend. I will always be your friend. At this point of time, I'm not interested in who were the purveyors of skullduggery and electoral fraud. Oh, really? My commentary, really? At this time? What happened? What about the previous time? Earlier then, before this moment. Observations made during the recount established beyond the shadow of a doubt that there was electoral fraud, perpetuated by persons not yet named. And that is the man's diplomacy. Mr. Hamilton Green, you know who the perpetrators were. Everything was fine. Declarations were made. Everything was fine up to then. But when the recount was established, they realized they would be caught with their pants down, in your words. And so they start to awaken the dead. As come Dracula Horde, coming to vote, and they can't be caught with 3,000 PPP and 3,000 PNC or APNO agents in the country, and police and ROs, they can't be found till now. Friends and family, your friend, your brother, me, Haji Roshan Khan, in the raw, with RK's Guyana Free Media. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to sanitize properly, please. This is my contribution to my country. Over and over, move your rings in between the thumbs, in the palm, all around open areas, ladies and gentlemen. And don't forget to wear your masks, please, as you move around. I'm going to do a special article later today, which might show tomorrow or the next day, on the pandemic in the USA and around the world and what the future holds. It doesn't look well. The government of Guyana, you are doing well, but you have started to get slackened. People are going to the seawall in groups. Families are getting together without masks. People are protesting without the necessary stratagems of COVID virus wisdom, 3 or 5 feet apart, as was done by the PPPC and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they were sanitized and they wore their masks, a few of them, but they were hauled and locked up and embarrassed and put in jail. But when the APNO AFC people came out, unceremoniously and were in the street and jumping and dancing and misbehaving, in front of the police and whining and bending over with the posterior to the back and gyrating the posterior without masks in most cases, they were not locked up. Government of Guyana, you are making some grave mistakes. Acting caretaker government of Guyana, as it comes to the celebration for victory when you have lost, is creating a state of riot and pain. You're putting seeds of hate and wrong into the minds of your people. And I have a strong feeling it is not President David Arthur Granger acting, but it's the warlord and a few within 3, 4, or 5, maximum 20, who want to control this country and this nation and make it their playground of thievery and masked manipulation and deceit. And so they can go after people who speak like yourself, regardless of how professional you are. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm retired. I'm no longer employed in RK's Guyana'S Security Services, while I'm in a pre-retirement mode, training those who are taking over, and the company is being sold to the corporation. So I am out because they will try, if they take power, to destroy me. Friends and family, your brother, me, Haji, Dr. Ocean Khan saying thank you for tuning in. And farewell, friends. At the beginning,